What's up, Pit Boss Nation? It's Erica Blaire, your favorite pit master, and we're here for another episode of Blue Ribbon BBQ. Today we're doing ribs, my favorite, something that I've done pretty well in my time. Anyway, I'm gonna make you a backyard star with these. These are gonna be great. What we're gonna do is a quick competition prep with a nice, beautiful finish on our Pit Boss. So let's get in and let's get started. After we get Fred the Fly. First thing I'm gonna do, check out your ribs. Make sure that they're pretty uniform. They're pretty much the same size. You can get your ribs already trimmed, or if you want, you can trim them yourself. That is all up to you. I have these nice and beautifully trimmed, and now what I'm gonna do is the ultimate debate in barbecue: keep the membrane on or pull the membrane off. You already know what I think. So let's get in here and let's get this done. This is the new rib prep tool from Pit Boss. And let's just get in here and start pulling this membrane off. Nice and beautiful, 2 seconds, all done. I believe you should pull the membrane off because it's like nature's Band-Aid. Nothing's getting in or out of that, and I want my smoke and my flavor to be on both sides of my ribs. A lot of people, they might just like slice and do a few little X's, but why not just take the whole thing off so you can ensure that you're gonna get flavor? That's my stance on that. And then I'm gonna look at these ribs. These are beautiful. I'm gonna take a little bit of fat off. Anything that's hanging like this, I'm gonna wanna take that off just because it's gonna burn and it's just a waste. So you can take any little pieces of fat off that were left, any pieces of meat that are sticking out that you're worried about, and just really kind of edge that up. Make sure that they're perfect. Let's go look at both sides. Any stray pieces. These are beautiful. So I'm super excited about this. Take a little bit of this off right here. And we're pretty much done. So now what we're gonna do is we are going to start being our barbecue art chef self. And I like to put a binder on. And once again, this is up to you whether you wanna do a binder or not. I use mustard, sometimes I use mayonnaise, it just depends. You can use a little bit of oil if you want. It does not affect the flavor. So I'm gonna get in here with a little bit of yellow mustard, and I'm just gonna slather it on so that I can create a really beautiful bark, and just make sure that all of my rub I'm gonna put on here is evenly done. So I'm gonna do a little rib massage right now and just get all the sides covered. And remember, how many sides are there to anything? There's 4 sides. Make sure you do all 4 sides. There we go. It's really funny, you'll hear people be like, oh my God, I can't believe you're putting mustard on ribs. I'm like, but you put mustard on a hot dog and that's pork too, so stop it. You're not gonna taste it, I promise. There we go. Just kind of get that nice and tacky. That's beautiful. Super quick too. You don't have to go really crazy. I know some people start using a brush and you don't have to do all that. So now we're done with the mustard, and now we are going to start adding our rubs. And the really cool thing is I like to use this one. This is the sweet rib rub. It's delicious. It kind of hits all those flavors, and it's a really great complement to smoke. But you can layer your rubs to however you want to do. You don't have to just stick with one rub. If you have 2 favorites, then go ahead and put both of them on and do it in layers. You're just creating depths of flavor. And you want to start from up high because you never want to do this. Like, you're gonna end up burning parts of your ribs or getting really big, heavy pockets of seasoning, and that's not what you want. So just go up really high and just kind of let it rain down like a gentle snow. And it's up to you how heavy you want to go. There's some times where, you know, I want to cover everything and I don't want any piece of the rib to show. But then there's other times where I want to be able to let the different flavors play out, including the smoke. And then we're going to put a little bit on the table, just like this. And we're going to rock our ribs on the side, just like this, to make sure that we're getting every single piece covered in the rub. Come back in. Let's rock and roll on this side. And now we're going to go back with our mustard binder. We're going to put a little bit right here. These ribs aren't that big, so I'm only cooking for like 1 or 2, maybe possibly 3 today. So I don't need to do all crazy with the mustard. But if you have a bunch of ribs, you know you're doing a lot, make sure you have enough mustard. There we go. And then we're just going to come right back in. And what I tell you, go high, right? And just kind of get in there. I love this. These are some of my favorite things to do. And now one of the things that you want to check out is look at what composes your rub. If there's a lot of sugar in your rub or something like that, really make sure that you're aware of that, because what happens? Sugar burns. So you want to make sure that you don't have any deep concentration packets of rub, or else it's going to burn in that area. So just always remember that. Or if your rub has a lot of salt in it, you really want to be aware of that before you go and you put those on your smoker. And now we just do a little visual inspection, make sure everything looks good. I'm going to let this sit until I actually see that the rub is adhering to the moisture in the ribs before I put it on my smoker. That's just something I like to do because it's always worked out very well for me in the past in competition and whatnot. But it really is up to you, but just kind of let it sit for a little bit while you see how the rub is sticking, and if there's any spots that you need to add more rub or not. Then I'm going to look over here at my smoker, going to see where we're at. All right, and I'm going to heat my smoker. I'm going to put these at 225. And so one of the really good things is this, with this Pit Boss, there's a rapid igniter. So I know that my temperature is going to get up really, really fast. And so that's a lot of peace of mind, especially when you're doing a longer cook like this. You know that you'll be able to get your temperature to where it needs to be and get your meat on the grill. All right, so now we're ready to put these onto our Pit Boss and let these have a beautiful smoke bath. So I have it going right now. I'm gonna get it up to 250, but you can go anywhere between 225 and 275, and you'll be able to get a really beautiful kiss of smoke on all of your meats. I'm gonna put these in the bottom grate, but I'm gonna put them kind of more towards the front. That's just for me. Whenever I notice like I have a thinner end on my ribs, I kind of try to put them to the front of my grill. But it's really up to you. When you figure out the spots on your grill that are optimal for you, then you go ahead and you follow that. And now one of the things that I always like to talk about that a competition pitmaster taught me when I first started out on the circuit, he said, when you put your ribs in, you don't just like stretch them out. He said, bunch them up, because then it gives more meat per bite on the bone. So I really love this trick of scrunching the ribs up. Don't lay them out flat like they got ran over by a car, but make sure that you kind of bunch them up, because as it cooks, the meat will actually cook thicker on the bone, making each bite more enjoyable and thicker. So that's just a little pro tip that was passed on to me, and now I'm passing it on to y'all. There we go. And now we're gonna let those sit and hang out. Probably gonna go do some farm chores, some work, and just check in every hour or so and just really look at your bark to see if it's setting. You also wanna spritz every now and again. I like to use apple cider vinegar and a little bit of water, but just lightly spritz. You're not trying to create pools or puddles on your ribs, but just really trying to encourage all that smoke to adhere to your meat and create a beautiful bark. So there you go. And I'm gonna show you the spritzer because it's really amazing. All right, so now it's time to spritz the ribs. I got a little bit of apple cider vinegar in here. You can do a mix, apple cider vinegar and water, whatever you like. We just want to get moisture on the top of these ribs. Ooh, those are looking beautiful. Woo, look at that, look at that. That was the best spritz I've ever done. And what we're doing is we're really just encouraging a lot of smoke, trying to make that color vibrant. And we're just gonna use our Pit Boss spritzer. This thing's amazing. It's like part farm tool, part barbecue, and very efficient. I love this thing. I'm gonna take that with me. No. So now it's time to work on tenderizing our ribs. We have a beautiful color and a beautiful bark. So now we're gonna get them nice and soft for that winning bite. Oh, these are gorgeous. Look at that bend. These are perfect. These are so beautiful. The color is great. And now we're just gonna work on tenderness. We really wanna get these tender. So I like to wrap mine in foil, but you can wrap them in butcher paper, do whatever you like. Just make sure that it is tightly sealed. No air can get in and out because you really want the steam and that convection inside your paper, whichever you're using, to get them very, very tender. I'm using the rest of what was in my spray bottle, which was my apple cider vinegar. And because I just want to gratuitously see if there's anything left in there. There's not. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pour a little bit around all the edges. And that's going to be my liquid that steams up when I put these in their little barbecue sleeping bag. And now at this stage, you can add things like butter, brown sugar, more barbecue rub, a little bit of barbecue sauce. You can put whatever you want in here. Out on the competition trail, I'll do a mix of fruit juice, a little bit of honey, brown sugar, butter, and a little bit of barbecue sauce. And that's what I go to put in with my wrap. But you can be really creative. And now you just want to make sure that the edges are sealed. You're going to wrap this down, come back, do the same thing to this side. And then I'm going to grab one more piece of foil. I'm going to put this down right here. I'm going to take these, I'm going to set them down. Come back in and then just do one more wrap just right here. And now we're going to put these back on the smoker. At this point, you're just checking for tenderness, so you can go by time or temperature depending on what you want. They might be done in as fast as an hour because these are thin, but it could take up to 2 hours. So really just monitor your temperature on these to make sure you're getting them to where you want them. And now for me, when I do this, I put them meat side down instead of bone side down. And that's just because I really want to make sure all the liquid pools around the meat that the people are going to be biting and eating when they judge me. So, all right, so while our ribs are tenderizing, I'm just going to kind of be making my basting sauce that I'm going to use at the very end in order to just make sure that my ribs are perfectly glazed and picture perfect before we slice into them. So what I do is I take a little bit of butter, just going to put that in there like this. I take the same rub that I was using during my cook. And I'm just going to put a little bit of that in there. And then your favorite barbecue sauce, whatever that may be, go ahead and put some of that in there. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to co-cook. So I'm just going to go and I'm going to put it right alongside my ribs that are already in there. And I'm just going to wait to see if it heats up and melts and gets into a nice little sheen. If you want though, you can microwave this, you can put it on a stove, you can bubble it up, do whatever you want. The biggest thing is that you want to make sure that your basting sauce is warm and that you're not putting cold barbecue sauce on your beautiful ribs, because it'll mess up the shine, it'll be chunky. Just don't do it, okay? Promise me. You've worked too hard and you've come too far for that. All right, so we've been co-cooking, we've been tenderizing our ribs and heating up our sauce, which is ready. It's already bubbling, so this is great. So I'm gonna take my barbecue sauce off. This is so good. And I'm gonna take the ribs off. Close that flame sear. Because what we're gonna do next is we're actually gonna put these on bare and let them just get nice and tacky. So you wanna make sure that you don't have any flames touching your ribs, unless that's what you're going for. But if you're not, just make sure you close that little sear grate. And be really careful in this scene, because a lot of times there could be steam coming out. So just be very cognizant so you don't end up burning your cuticles off or something like that. But these look lovely. I can already tell how tender they are just by the way the meat is showing itself, so that's really great. And then what I want to do is I'm just going to take this out and I'm going to put these on the table. A lot of times you can save this liquid, mix it back in with your barbecue sauce if you want, and make it a little finishing sauce, or you can just dump it if you're in your backyard. It's whatever you want to do. So now I really went in hard in the paint on making sure that this was hot, just because I'm using a thicker sauce, but I cut it with butter, as y'all saw earlier. I'm just gonna paint the meat, and you don't have to get too aggressive with it. You're just basically going for that glaze. You don't want to dump a whole bottle of sauce on your ribs. You only do that the day after if you're trying to hide something. And just make sure you really paint this up. This is very nice. Oh, these are beautiful. And you can save this sauce, because in the end, when you're cutting, I'll also show you. And we're gonna put these right back on. And I'm gonna put these back on the front, because now they are unprotected and they are just cooking. We call this the high stakes round. You don't want to get distracted counting butterflies or watching reality TV, because all your hard work will be for nothing. So make sure that you stay close to your grill, put on a timer, put on an alert, maximum 8 minutes, just so that sauce will set before you cut your ribs. All right, so now our ribs are ready. They are ready to cut and they're ready to eat. So let's do this. Oh, these look gorgeous. Love it. These are absolutely beautiful. Wow. That Pit Boss Pro series for the win, I'm telling y'all. Now, if you have a disposable cutting board or you're using a cutting board, that's great. What you want to make sure you do is just put a little bit of sauce wherever you're going to be cutting the ribs, because when you turn these ribs over, you don't want to lose any of your bark and you don't want to lose any of that beautiful color that you have worked so hard to get. So because I'm using butcher paper, I'm going to have to go fast because it's going to absorb my barbecue sauce. But I just want to make sure the length of the ribs is covered for when I start cutting. There we go. And if you have kids like I do, you can let your kids do this part. They love it. There we go. And then we're going to flip our ribs over, and they're going to be face down right on the sauce. And now we're going to start looking where we want to cut. So there's a lot of different ways you can cut on how you want to present your ribs. You can do a double bone, They call that the Hollywood cut, or you can just cut every individual rib. That's what I do, and then the little small ones right here, you know, the rib dinner, the little ribbons, I keep that by itself. I think that's just nostalgia from my childhood. But what you want to do is you just want to kind of go in between the ribs, and you want to follow the way that they naturally go. Don't worry about if one's crooked or whatever, it's okay. You just want to follow the way they go. And sometimes there's little like an in-boned right here. You can cut this off. We call this the chef piece, so you can taste what you've done to make sure everything's okay. Just follow your ribs and cut them. They're beautiful. They're nice and meaty because you did not stretch them out like an accordion. So there's a lot of meat on each bone, and that's just wonderful. This looks so good. Love these. So nice. And then I'm going to keep this little spot for nostalgia. That's for you, Grandma. She lives in Colorado. She didn't hear me. All right. So now what you want to do, this is kind of like saucing your ribs, but you can see how perfect this is. I mean, you have everything that you need here. The smoke is beautiful. Everything, the color is gorgeous. But you can just go back and you can smooth your ribs out if you want. If you know you want to make sure that they look perfect with lots of gloss. If you want, you can also do the sides. A lot of people will cover the sides of the ribs up as well so that you get a bite of everything as you're going in. It's really up to you how you want to present your ribs. But these are perfect as is. I mean, these are lovely. I'm very proud of these. And they're so nice and meaty. I can smell the smoke. I can smell that competition blend in there. This is great. I mean, I think there's very few moments in life where you can be more proud than when you make perfect ribs. This is gorgeous. And then there you go. You're ready for your tailgate, you're ready for your backyard party, or you're just ready for a Tuesday night dinner, and just know that you're the boss. There you go. Enjoy, y'all. I'll see you again for more Blue Ribbon BBQ. Until next time, bye.